season 91, it was a case of by how far for the amazing GTR. As Nissan's twin-turbo four-wheel drive rocket ship swamped the opposition to win both the Shell Touring Car title and the Tooheys 1000 at Bathurst. In a bid to even up the equation this year, Cam's handicappers have added 40 kilos to the Nissan and restricted power output to 450 horses by way of a turbo pop-off valve. By comparison, Holden is straight from Jenny Craig, 100 kilos lighter than the Tokyo Express, but likely to feel the pinch due to its 7,500 RPM rev limiter. BMW's durable M3 will do it tough after being shackled with a 60-kilo weight penalty. By Bavarian standards, the Bimmer may be considered obese, though it is rev-free, so put in the earplugs. Ford's European Sierra is unlikely to be affected by tipping the scales at 1,150 kilos or its 7,500 RPM limiter, but it is early days yet. So have the handicappers got it right first up in a bid to produce closer and more entertaining racing in season 92? We'll soon know as 7 Sport welcomes you to Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway for round 1 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Proudly brought to you by Shell. Good afternoon, Australia. I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to the commencement of another year of fabulous motorsport here with 7 Sport. Today we're at Amaroo Park Raceway for round 1 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship, and there's been plenty of action on the track as I welcome my co-anchor for season 92, former national champion Bathurst winner Alan Moffat. Alan, we've spoken about the cars, but also the format has caused a few problems today for those who thought they'd be on pole.
Yes, well, with the new qualifying dash on Sunday morning, which we've never had before, normally Saturday afternoon takes pole position. But last night, John Bowe went home with his Shell Sierra on pole, and after the 3-lap race today, he landed up 5th, so he's not too happy. By converse, Peter Brock was 5th on the grid last night, and he came 2nd in the race this morning, just behind Jim Richards, and lands up on the first row.
Here's the last lap of what we saw this morning, the Dash for Cash, the Peter Jackson event. And as you can see, Jimmy Richards was leading. Peter Brock was right on his tail. They come to the exit of Honda Corner, and a big move here down the outside from Peter Brock as he comes storming down to put the pressure well and truly on Jimmy Richards. Just couldn't pull it. And Jimmy Richards, of course, went on to win the 3-lap trophy dash this morning here at Amaroo Park Raceway. And that, of course, has changed the grid positions here today.
The 3-lap race is really a little bit of a lottery because we draw for our positions, as you know. So if you're lucky enough to get on the front row, it gives you a pretty good start on the other guys.
You started out of 2 there, 1 for the first heat. It must be a big advantage.
Yes, it is, but it's probably really the second heat that counts the most because that's when our tyres will be really looking not too good.
Well done, Jimmy Richards. He has pole position in the Winfield Nissan. Out of 2 is 0.5 Peter Brock, the big achiever in that field. From 3, it's car number 2, Mark Scaife in the second of the Nissans. From 4, 35, Wayne Park in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 5, car number 18, John Bowe, the first of the Shell Sierras. From 6, number 3, Trevor Ashby, the Commodore. From 7, car number 4, Mark Gibbs, the GIO Nissan GTR. From 8, it's car number 30, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. 9, a long way back, 25, Tony Longhurst, the B&H BMW. And rounding out the top 10, car number 17, Dickie Johnson. Racing. Brocky off the line, but look at the four-wheel drive advantage as he tries to cross to the inside. A block out the challenge. Wayne Park gets away beautifully on the outside as they come roaring up to the top of Itchapave. The 2 Nissans side by side over the top and down into the Dunlop loop, and it is Peter Brock who will lead it from Wayne Park. Oh, Glenn Seaton very much sideway on the exit. There's Dick Johnson muscled in there. The GIO Nissan well back in the pack as Brocky stretches him coming down the back straight for the first time. Looks like Glenn Seaton in car number 30, the second of the Peter Jackson cars, getting by Wayne Park as he now picks up second. Park drops back to third. We take the car number 30 off the start to show you how the 2 Nissans lag down. Glenn Seaton able to get up on the outside. You see the 2 Nissans across to the right as he catches one, moves up here on the inside of Jimmy Richards.
Here's Dick Johnson having a go at Trevor Ashby. Not gonna like this one, doing everything. Oh, Dick very gentlemanly there, I must say. Ashby a real handful around here, but there he's through, and he was definitely being held up by that Commodore.
That was a good move, and it was caught by our race cam. Look at this, a BMW.
Those were the BMWs that weren't gonna go very well, Mike, but they seem to be up there fairly quickly already.
Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra, as he hones in behind the tail of the 05 Peter Brock Mobile Commodore. They come down the hill And Seaton has been clawing away at Peter Brock's lead lap after lap as we take our race cam. Sitting up on top of car number 30 on the approach now to the late corner. Brock on the brakes.
Well, there's no doubt that we've got a good set of tires on both of these cars. Bridgestone covering both Peter Brock and Glenn Seaton. They've obviously got a batch that's working well here today.
Now the whole idea is to try and just keep this tight on the exit to this turn. Keep it very tight because here comes Jim down the inside. Side by side, and Richards. In the Winfield Nissan, Johnson comes down, but he's got to get back behind him because he's going to have Mark Scaife up the inside as well.
Once Mark Scaife in the number 2 car, that's Richards hammering around the back of Johnson there.
Yes, I must apologise, I got the cars wrong there. It was Mark.
Well, a lot of red cars, hard to follow there, Michael.
No, I got it wrong all
we'll
day,
forgive
actually.
you that time, but
Glenn Seaton is going after Peter Brock in the biggest possible way as they come down the back part of the course. The last lap board is out.
2 big braking areas here. This one at the end, at the bottom of this hill, and then again at the lake corner. The Sierra a little bit lighter, might be able to take advantage, but looking
a bit too far back.
A little bit too far.
Yeah. Coming up to the short straight, there's no room. A few lap cars. Checkered flag at the ready.
Great
New
drive.
Regulations, and Peter Brock takes heat number 1 of round 1 of the Shell Touring Car Nationals at Amaroo Park. Second place will go to the Peter Jackson teamster, Glenn Seaton, and Mark Scaife will finish 3rd. Jim Richards 4th, Dick Johnson 5th, and 6th place will go to John Bow in car number 18. So Peter Brock and Alan, it has been declared a wet race, so everyone is on wet weather rubber.
That's fresh ones, of course.
So 10 seconds away from the start. The weather has cleared. You could have a dry line here and some pit stops. The tension, the action ready to come from Amaroo Park. Heat number 2. And off the line goes the Nissan, out and gone the pair of them. There goes the 3rd Nissan up on the inside. No advantage with 4-wheel drive, they say. Don't you believe it? And the rest of them are just straggling up the hill now, trying to get traction off the line. Over the top and down into the loop.
Well, that was a reversal of the first heat where Brock got an immaculate start. I think he definitely fumbled the clutch on that one. Didn't want to get too much wheel spin. Took it a little bit easy, but the 4-wheel drive just leapt off the 2nd and 3rd row of the grids.
Couldn't get better indication of the performance than that. Mark Gibbs starting from 8th position on the grid. He was 3rd through the first corner. These things have got some traction, all right. And the wet conditions, we haven't seen the GTRs run in the wet yet. This is the first time, and they are quick.
I tell you what, 60 kilos of difference to the BMWs. Have a look at them running down. They're just powering down the outside. I would say they've probably gone for the softest wet weather tyre. And there's a bump going on with John Bower. I tell you what, that's Alan Jones. They've had a battle of words going for a while.
That's Tony Longhurst.
No, it's Jones behind.
But that's Jones coming up beside him now, so there could be a bit of a... Here we go. Jones will look down the inside.
Well, the rain is a great equalizer, Michael. It brings everybody into gear. The drivers have still got to be extremely brave, and they've got to be extremely delicate and very careful with what they're doing.
Jones down the inside.
Obviously, they're feeling no pain whatsoever. Either Tony Longer's got a little wide there. Ooh, he was lucky. Up on the nature strip there, or if you want to call it a nature strip. Definitely slippery when you get those tires on those curves.
So the BMW is a new lease of life, as Alan said. Rain is the great equaliser. These little bimmers with their 60 kilos, not showing any sort of restriction in the wet weather conditions. Brocky still hanging in 4th position behind the 3 GTRs. Mark Gibbs there in 3rd.
Okay, we'll have a look at them across the line. It's Mark Scaife, the leader, from Jimmy Richards. Mark Gibbs runs 3rd on the road. As we look at the replay off the starting line with Glenn Seaton, just look at the acceleration of those 3 GTRs. There's Brock. Johnny Bow moves up quickly.
Well, they talk about slingshots, Mike, and boy, if that wasn't one, you'll never see one. Just tremendous. And if there was ever a vote for 4-wheel drive on the road, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you're looking at. This is where the technical excellence comes into their own, and that's why you would have it if every manufacturer was prepared to spend the money doing it. It'll be much more comfortable for Brocky at the moment. He's got a heavier car, 1,300 kilos against the 1,040 kilos, but here's the first go, a little stab. No, Tony not going to do it. He did do it.
Brock had a ton of understeer coming out of there.
See, just that millisecond that he hesitated and the BMW was through. So much for power to weight ratios that everybody's been bandying around all weekend. The violins have been playing here like a 45-piece Philharmonic orchestra. But we're now seeing touring car racing 1992. Forget the four-wheel drive cars. It's a lay-down misère for them. But the way in which the two BMWs leapt forward is an indication. Normally aspirated engine, a little easier to control. And then the third BMW passing a Sierra like he was standing still.
That was Paul Morris, who's also running for the Frank Gardner, Tony Longhurst team. And you saw what he did. I tell you what, all the, I guess, the whinging about the extra 60 kilos, put him on a wet track. I tell you what, doesn't that even up the equation? Yes.
Bondi, of course, living in Sydney, Mike, would know the way he would like to have his car set up, and I think is harassing the two cars in front of him quite efficiently, just looking for a slight opportunity to get by under brakes. It might be a touch here. Close.
I've got the feeling Morris is going to gain handsomely out of this. These three are having a huge scrap. Seaton doesn't want to give way under brakes. He's on the brakes early. Naturally, Bond's car is loose in the tail end.
Paul Morris gets squeezed out.
Bondi's, something's back. He's had it. Engine's gone. Missed a gear change or something. He's out of the equation there now.
Aggressive stuff from Paul Morris. All the GTR boys have been complaining this year with the reduction in horsepower, how it's affected the handling of the car. It seems to be understeering quite heavily now.
There he goes.
Tony says thanks very much.
And there's not much Mark can do except try and out-accelerate him, and Tony's got to run with him on the inside unless Mark gets across there, which he can't do. Now, you'll find that Longhurst will get through. He'll shorten up the turn to make sure he can't get back on the inside.
Now, these two guys are only 4 seconds behind the leading Freddie Gibson cars, Scaife and Richards. So the field is gradually bunching up, and I guess if the track does start to dry out, Alan, the BMW on wet weather tyres would have the advantage, would it?
Well, being the lightest car, it should deteriorate the least. Now's the time for the fellas to start drifting around on the wet part of the track, keeping the tires cool and making sure that they don't chunk out. But we're not at desperate stage yet.
Here's Paul Morris making a move down on the outside of Glenn Seaton. Seaton came up to fourth. Morris making a big lunge down the outside. Seaton will probably outbrake him going into this corner and keep him to the outside. Oh, he came straight across, so that was for Glenn.
Again, the turbo lag coming in. That's the worst corner on the track for a Sierra. Down to the very lowest gear, and turbo down to very few RPM.
And that advantage has been pushed home now by Mark Gibbs in the third GTR, who's been able to get around the outside again of Tony Longhurst.
We've just had word from the pits that there he is, car 25. Longhurst has been pinged for noise infringements as well.
Well, we've got an abnormal situation here. When I say abnormal, the authorities don't, where we live in an echo chamber here, and the noise attacks these people. They pass one day, then they're noisy the next. It's very, very hard.
The cloud covers come over, and because our car revs so hard, the induction noise has obviously brought the decibels up. They put the flag out, so I dropped 1,000 revs and started to use the higher gears, but they continued to hold the flag out. So I think that's pretty bad. Coming up to the last corner now, as they swing on the way to the checkered flag, and it's about to come up. A 1-2 for the Winfield Nissan team across the line. Mark Scaife taking the heat win, second going to Jim Richards, and third, a remarkable third, to the GIO Nissan GTR of Mark Gibbs of Sydney.